Alex had never considered himself particularly adventurous. At 20, he was an intern at Montclair Enterprises, a sleek corporate tower in the heart of the city, and his life had revolved around coffee runs, spreadsheet updates, and nervously nodding in meetings. But that Thursday afternoon, carrying a thick stack of reports to the CEO's office, he was about to have his reality upended. The executive assistant handed him a folder with a sharp look that brooked no argument. "Ms. Rowan wants this directly. Don't just leave it on her desk. You understand?" "Yes, ma'am," Alex said, gripping the folder like it was a lifeline. Victoria Rowan was the kind of CEO whose reputation preceded her. 43, blonde, and impossibly poised, she had built Montclair from a small consulting firm into one of the city's most formidable corporations. Stories about her intellect and ruthlessness circulated in hushed tones in the office. How she could read a balance sheet in minutes, how she could command a boardroom with a single question, how no one, employee or executive, ever dared cross her without consequence. And yet, the few glimpses Alex had caught of her in the elevator or lobby left him breathless. Not just because she was strikingly beautiful, but because she radiated a presence that seemed to bend the world slightly toward her will. As he rode the elevator to the 25th floor, Alex rehearsed his line, "Good afternoon, Ms. Rowan. Here's the Q3 projection report you requested." Polite, professional, neutral. He smoothed his tie and wiped sweaty palms on his slacks. When the elevator doors opened, he hesitated, took a deep breath, and pushed open the frosted glass door to her office. He froze. Victoria wasn't alone. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the office in a warm golden glow. And there she was, not behind her desk, but standing close to another woman Alex had never seen before, a striking redhead in a tight red top and dark jeans. Victoria's hand was pressed to the woman's waist, pulling her close, and their lips were locked in a kiss. Alex's stomach flipped as he realized he had stumbled upon something he had absolutely no right to witness. His feet rooted to the floor. The folder in his hands suddenly felt heavier than lead. Every rational thought screamed at him to turn and leave, but his body refused. The redhead broke the kiss first, stepping back with a mischievous grin that immediately found Alex in the doorway. "Oh," she said, voice teasing. "Looks like we have company." Victoria's head turned, and Alex's pulse raced. Her blue eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made him feel simultaneously small and exposed. "Well," she said, her voice perfectly calm, as if she had merely noticed a fly in the room. "This is unexpected." Alex stammered. "I'm sorry, Ms. Rowan. I didn't mean to. I was just delivering the report." He held out the folder as though presenting a peace offering. Victoria didn't take it immediately. Instead, she studied him, assessing, sharp. The redhead leaned casually against the desk, her expression amused. "And who's this?" the redhead asked. "Alex," Victoria said, steady as ever. "Our intern." The redhead's green eyes scanned him in a way that made Alex flush. "He's cute," she said, voice playful. Alex nearly dropped the folder. Thank you." Victoria's eyebrow rose. "That is not relevant." "Maybe not to you," the redhead replied, her grin widening. "But to me? Very relevant." Alex's brain short-circuited. He wanted to apologize, to back out, to escape the awkwardness, but his legs felt frozen. Victoria finally stepped forward and took the folder, her fingers brushing his slightly. "You'll keep this to yourself," she said, voice firm. "Yes, of course," Alex managed. "I won't say anything." The redhead tilted her head at him. "Or maybe we don't want you to forget it," she teased. Victoria shot her a warning glance, but the redhead only smirked. "You're curious," she said, her gaze flicking to him again. "I can feel it." Alex swallowed hard. "Maybe." A heavy silence fell, broken only by the faint hum of the city below. Victoria's piercing stare weighed on him, but instead of dismissing him, she seemed to study him with interest. "You're reckless," she murmured to the redhead. "And you love me for it," the redhead replied, draping an arm casually around Victoria's waist. "Besides, you've noticed him too, haven't you? The way he looks at you in meetings. Like you're the only person in the room." Alex's cheeks burned. Victoria's lips curved slightly, a smirk, teasing, dangerous. Perhaps. But what exactly are you suggesting? She asked. That we let him in, the redhead said simply. Alex's mind froze. Wait, what do you mean? Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly, measuring him. She means exactly what you think she means. The question is, do you want it? Every rational part of him screamed no. This was insane. Workplace boundaries, ethics, future career. All of it screamed no. But his heart betrayed him. Yes, he whispered. The redhead laughed softly. I knew it. Victoria shook her head, though her lips hinted at amusement. You'll regret this, she said softly. Not yet, Alex whispered back. And then the redhead stepped forward, brushing against him in a teasing, intimate way. Their eyes met, and Alex realized with a jolt that he wanted this. Wanted them. Victoria moved too, deliberate, closer, her touch light but commanding. Alex's heart pounded, and the office, the city outside, seemed to vanish. Time worked. Moments bled together. A brush of hands, a whispered laugh, a glance too long. Alex realized he had crossed a threshold he couldn't return from. By the time he left the office, his pulse was racing, his thoughts a jumble. He had seen what no intern should ever see. And somehow, they wanted him to join them. The next morning, Alex found it almost impossible to focus. Every spreadsheet, every report, every email felt distant compared to the memory of the previous day. The memory of Victoria's sharp blue eyes, Claire's mischievous grin, the way they had spoken to him, it clung to him like a second skin. By late afternoon, his phone buzzed. A message from Victoria, 7 p.m. A place. Dinner. Don't be late. Alex stared at the screen, heart hammering. He stared at it for a full 5 minutes before replying, I'll be there. When the time came, he dressed carefully, trying to balance professionalism with casual appeal, dark slacks, a fitted shirt, polished shoes. He checked his reflection in the elevator mirror 3 times, ran a hand through his hair, and took a deep breath. The door to Victoria's penthouse opened before he could knock. Claire stood there, barefoot, wearing a flowing red blouse and jeans. Her fiery hair cascaded over her shoulders, her green eyes sparkling with amusement. Finally, she said, stepping aside with a grin. Come in and turn. Alex hesitated, then stepped inside. The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows with a breathtaking view of the city skyline, modern decor softened by books, art, and subtle touches of Claire's personality everywhere. He felt out of place and yet oddly, at home. Victoria appeared from the kitchen, holding a bottle of wine. She had changed as well, silk blouse tucked into a fitted skirt, hair loose in waves around her face. The elegance that had seemed untouchable in the office now carried an intimate, almost playful warmth. Alex, she greeted, her voice softer than usual. I'm glad you came. His throat went dry. Me too, he admitted. Dinner was calm at first. Claire chatted effortlessly, asking Alex about school, his favorite films, his plans after graduation. Victoria steered the conversation with a gentle authority, occasionally interjecting with sharp, insightful comments that made Alex's head spin. He was trying to pay attention, but the way Victoria's eyes occasionally flicked to him, the brush of Claire's hand against his arm, made it almost impossible to focus. At dessert, the tension was palpable. Claire leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table, a teasing smile on her lips. So, are we going to keep pretending this is just dinner? Alex froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Victoria's eyes narrowed at Claire, but Alex caught the faintest hint of amusement on her lips. Don't scare him, Victoria murmured. Claire tilted her head at Alex. Am I scaring you? Alex shook his head quickly. No, just surprised. Good, Claire said. Because I don't do games. We're serious about you being part of this. Right, Victoria? Victoria's sigh was soft but approving. She's right. We invited you because we trust you. And because, her lips curved faintly. We both like you. Alex's breath caught. Both? Claire laughed, leaning back slightly. Just, both. We're a package deal. The air in the room shifted, charged, fragile. Victoria reached across the table, her fingers brushing against his. No pressure, Alex. But if this is something you want, we won't pretend otherwise. Alex looked from one to the other, his pulse racing. The logical part of him screamed that this was insane, workplace, boundaries, but the pull of desire, curiosity, and excitement was undeniable. I want this, he whispered. Claire grinned. Victoria's eyes softened. Good, Victoria said. That's all we needed to hear. After dinner, they moved to the living room. The space felt warm, private, and intimate. Candles flickered, soft music played in the background, and the three of them sat close together on the sofa. Claire leaned her head on Alex's shoulder, fingers brushing lightly along his arm. Victoria rested her hand on his thigh. The contact, simple as it was, made Alex shiver with anticipation. You're shaking, Claire whispered. Alex swallowed, trying to steady himself. I'm just overwhelmed. That's okay, Victoria said, voice low. We'll take it slow. There's no rush. But you have to understand something. Alex nodded. I do. I want this. Victoria's gaze softened but remained serious. This is not just a fling. Claire and I are serious with each other. Bringing you in means we expect honesty, respect, and boundaries. Can you handle that? Alex's heart hammered. Yes. I can. The evening stretched on, filled with quiet touches, soft laughter, and whispered conversations. Alex was learning their rhythms, their moods, the delicate balance of being part of something both intimate and unconventional. By the time he left the penthouse, it was past midnight. He walked back to his apartment in a daze, thinking about the delicate warmth of Claire's hand, the commanding but gentle pressure of Victoria's. The next week at work was a test of his composure. Being around Victoria and Claire during office hours required absolute restraint. Alex found himself hyper-aware of every glance, every brush of clothing, every smile. Sometimes he caught a fleeting look, a smirk from Claire across the boardroom, Victoria's eyes briefly locking onto his during a presentation, and his stomach twisted. Yet the professional mask was necessary. They were his CEO and her partner, and he was an intern. One wrong move could ruin everything. But secretly, those stolen glances and subtle touches were enough to make him feel included, desired, alive. On Friday, Victoria called him into her office. Alex, she said, leaning against her desk, Claire and I want to discuss this weekend. Alex's pulse quickened. Yes, Ms. Rowan. She smirked slightly. Call me Victoria. I'm not in the office right now. He nodded, heart hammering. We're inviting you to spend Saturday with us, she continued. A day out, just the three of us. Nothing extravagant, just Are you free? Yes, he whispered. Good, Victoria said. Claire will tell you the details. Claire leaned back in her chair, smirking. Pack light. It's going to be fun. But remember, this is your initiation. Pay attention, intern. We'll be testing you. Alex swallowed hard, a mix of anticipation and nerves coursing through him. I'll do my best. You better, Victoria said, standing to walk him to the door. Because once you're in, there's no turning back. As he left the office, clutching the folder of reports for the last time that week, Alex realized his life had changed entirely. He was no longer just an intern. He was part of something thrilling, forbidden, and intoxicating. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Saturday arrived with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Alex arrived at Victoria's penthouse shortly before noon, dressed casually but neatly, dark jeans, a fitted gray shirt, sneakers clean enough to impress, but not overdone. He knocked, and Claire answered almost immediately, barefoot, her hair loose, wearing a breezy summer dress that clung to her curves in a way that made Alex's heart stutter. Ready for your initiation? She teased, eyes sparkling. Don't be late. Victoria appeared behind her, holding 2 coffee mugs. She wore tailored pants and a soft blouse, hair pinned up loosely. Alex, she said, smiling softly, come in. Today is about trust, comfort, and learning our world. Alex swallowed. Trust, comfort, learning their world. Those words rang in his ears like a promise. The day began with a quiet brunch at a nearby cafe. Claire and Victoria were playful, teasing him about minor work mistakes, joking about his nervous demeanor. Alex laughed more freely than he had in months, realizing how easy it was to be himself around them, even under circumstances that should have felt complicated. "You're doing well," Victoria whispered as they left the cafe. "Pay attention to how we interact. This is more than fun. It's rhythm, consent, and boundaries. These are the foundations of everything." Claire grinned. "See? Told you there were lessons. You're not just an intern anymore, you're a student of us." The day was a mixture of simple pleasures and subtle intimacy. They visited a small art gallery, hand in hand at times, with Claire laughing at Alex's attempts to interpret modern art and Victoria offering sharp, witty insights that left him both impressed and flustered. They stopped for ice cream, shared a bench by the park, and the three of them talked endlessly about life, ambitions, and dreams. Every so often Victoria or Claire would brush against him, hand lightly on his shoulder, a finger along his arm, and every time his pulse spiked. By the time the sun began to dip behind the skyline, Alex felt like he was walking on a tightrope between exhilaration and anxiety, and he wouldn't have traded the feeling for anything. Evening came, and they returned to the penthouse. Alex helped Claire set the table while Victoria poured wine, the soft clink of dishes and glass filling the room. Dinner was light, laughter frequent, but beneath it all, an unspoken current ran through every glance and touch. After dinner, they moved to the living room, curling up on the sofa together. Claire rested her head on Alex's shoulder, Victoria's hand found his thigh, their fingers brushing lightly. Alex's nerves melted with each touch, each laugh, each shared secret. He had never felt this kind of connection before, both intimate and warm, thrilling and safe. Victoria's voice broke the comfortable silence. "Alex, I want you to understand something important. Being part of this is a choice. It's not just desire. It's honesty, respect, and communication. Can you promise me that?" Alex looked at her, his heart racing. "Yes, I can. I promise." Claire smiled, resting her hand over his. "Good. Because once you're in, you're part of us. Fully." And just like that, Alex realized there was no turning back. He wanted them, not just physically, but emotionally. He wanted the intimacy, the trust, the playful dominance of Claire and the commanding care of Victoria. The night deepened. Candles flickered, casting soft shadows across the room. Claire kissed his cheek, trailing lightly down to his jaw, her green eyes mischievous. Victoria leaned closer from the other side, brushing her lips against his temple, her breath warm, teasing. "Relax," Victoria whispered. "We'll take this slow. Tonight isn't about rushing, it's about connection." Alex nodded, chest tight, body alive with anticipation. He had never imagined being part of something so unusual, so forbidden, and yet so natural. The three of them shifted on the sofa, laughter and whispered conversation blending with gentle touches, small kisses, and tentative exploration. Every glance, every smile, every brush of fingers sent shivers down his spine. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, and perfect in a way Alex couldn't have anticipated. Hours passed. They moved seamlessly from playful teasing to quiet intimacy. Alex felt accepted, desired, and safe in a way that made his pulse soar. The boundaries they maintained were clear, yet fluid enough to allow exploration, connection, and trust. By the time Alex finally left the penthouse that night, the city was silent, stars sparkling above. His body was tired, yes, but his mind was alive with a mix of awe, excitement, and contentment. He had crossed a threshold he could never return from, and for the first time in his life, he felt fully alive. Victoria's text came shortly after he arrived home. "Sleep well, Alex. You did wonderfully today. Welcome to us." Claire's followed immediately. "Can't wait for next time. You belong here." Alex stared at the messages, heart swelling. For the first time, he realized he had found something rare, a connection that was thrilling, passionate, and real, even if unconventional. The world of Montclair Enterprises had changed. His life had changed. And Alex, the once nervous intern, had stepped fully into a world of desire, trust, and love with Victoria and Claire, ready to navigate every thrilling, intoxicating moment that lay ahead.